Hi, welcome to the Halloween episode of Watchlist Wednesday. My theme for this episode is vampire movies. I knew when I set out to do this episode that I wanted to include Fright Night and Bram Stoker's Dracula, both of which I had wanted to see for quite some time. Because I started the channel kind of mid-month, I didn't have time to make a full 4-film episode. Before we officially dive into Fright Night, I want to issue a trigger warning of sorts to my fellow sufferers of misophonia. The first 5 minutes of this film, basically when the credits are rolling in the beginning, there are a lot of mouth noises, and I think they're somewhat exaggerated for comedic effect, and it's so hard to get through. So you might want to turn it down and then put on captions so you know what's going on. I was wearing earbuds, so really not a great combination. So Fright Night is a comedy horror hybrid type of film. It was released in 1985. It was directed by Tom Holland. No, not that Tom Holland. He wasn't born yet. Fright Night is rated R, which is very fitting for gore and language. The story centers around a teenager named Charlie Brewster who loves to watch old horror films on a TV show called Fright Night, hence the title. Charlie is played by William Ragsdale, who I only knew from the film Mannequin 2 on the Move and the TV show Herman's Head from the 90s. So it was kind of nice to see him in something else. Charlie becomes increasingly suspicious of his new neighbor, Jerry Dandridge. He witnesses some things kind of Hitchcock's Rear Window style and deduces that Dandridge is a vampire. He's unable to convince the police or those in his circle about the dangers, so he decides to call upon the host of Fright Night, who is a kind of a has-been actor who used to play a vampire hunter in films. Charlie's girlfriend, Amy, who's played by Amanda Bierce from Married with Children, and his friend Ed, whose nickname is Evil, who's played by Stephen Jeffries, are eventually convinced to help out. What I enjoyed most about this film is Roddy McDowall's portrayal of said TV host. He's kind of a blend of Peter Cushing and Vincent Price, I would say, like a voice and swagger wise. And his character is named Peter Vincent. So I think maybe that was on purpose. Roddy McDowall is definitely a bright spot here. And so is Chris Sarandon, who plays Jerry Dandridge, the suspected vampire. Dandridge is somehow attractive and menacing in almost equal amounts. Now, for those of us who grew up watching The Princess Bride and saw him as Prince Humperdinck, you kind of know he straddles that line pretty well because Humperdinck was also kind of a blend of charming and evil. I also wonder just how long Chris Sarandon had to be in the makeup chair during the making of this film because his character goes through several transformations and it's all so well done. As for what I didn't like, there is definitely an ick factor that goes on with Amy and Dandridge. The actress Amanda Bierce was 27, but her character is a teenage girl. I mean, villains in vampire movies are literally predatory, so I think maybe it helps sell that aspect of it a little bit. Also, the 80s cheese is a little over the top at times, especially the character of Evil Ed. He's kind of like if you put all the cliche sidekick characters from 80s teen films into a blender. He's a little much. Now, the character of Ed did make a kind of a stunning transformation as the film went on, or a couple of them actually, and that was well done, so it does get better. The film in general gets better as you go along. As for favorite scene, I would say anything from the wolf scene forward is just excellently done. Practical effects are great. It's a lot of gore, a lot of genuinely scary moments. So I would say the quality of this film spiked quite a bit in the final act. They really stuck the landing. So overall, I would say Fright Night really balances comedy and horror pretty well. It's kind of in the vein of An American Werewolf in London, but in a cheesy teen comedy kind of way. So there's an Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films in the US, and they give out awards called the Saturn Awards. Fright Night won Best Horror Film, Best Supporting Actor for Roddy McDowall, well deserved, and Best Writing for Tom Holland, who was also the director. It was also nominated for Best Actor for Chris Sarandon, Best Director for Tom Holland, and Best Special Effects by Richard Edlund. My letterbox score for Fright Night is 3 out of 5 stars. To be honest, that's kind of my standard rating over there, unless something is exceptionally good or exceptionally bad. Bram Stoker's Dracula is, as you may have assumed, an interpretation of the classic novel. The film is what I would call a blend of gothic horror and romance. It was released in 1992 and was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. The story initially centers around Jonathan Harker, who is a solicitor from England who travels to Transylvania to assist Count Dracula with some real estate purchases. During one of their early conversations, Dracula notices a photo of Jonathan's fiancée, Mina Murray, who bears a striking resemblance to his late wife from his mortal days. Both women are played by Winona Ryder. So, due to his new obsession with Mina, Dracula travels to London, England to find her. Once Count Dracula arrives in England to look for Mina, he takes on the appearance that he had at the start of the film prior to his vampire transformation. It is at that point where we're kind of reminded that he's being played by Sir Gary Oldman, because when he's in the aged vampire makeup, he's completely unrecognizable and his voice is completely different as well. So while Prince Vlad is hard at work entrancing Mina, a group of vampire hunters forms to track him down. They are led by Van Helsing, who's being played here by Sir Anthony Hopkins. What I liked most about this film, honestly, is Tom Waits' portrayal of Renfield. He is just the bright spot for me, I think. He captures the desperation, a little bit of humor. It's very nuanced portrayal, and I really enjoyed it. I would say I enjoyed the overall visual style of the film. Certain shot choices were really creative. It almost looked like old paintings come to life in moments, and I just really appreciated the whole aesthetic of it. The set design was really elaborate, and the costumes were just gorgeous. I also really enjoyed Sir Anthony Hopkins as Abraham Van Helsing. He injected some humor into the story where it was needed, and there's a few chuckles here and there to break things up. Okay, now we'll talk about what I didn't like. I hate to pile on because everyone who's ever criticized this film has brought up the same thing. But Keanu Reeves was woefully miscast in this film. I adore him as a person. Some of his movies are on my favorites list. I just don't think he was the right choice here. His accent was not great. His overall performance was almost comedic, but I don't think it was intentionally comedic. So, yeah, that just didn't work. I'm sorry. This may be kind of a hot take because I've never really heard anybody point this out, but I don't think Winona Ryder gave her best performance either. She looked stunning here, and her overall presence was great. The emotion she brought to it was perfect, I think. But some of the line delivery was just a little off. So I wouldn't say it's a bad performance. Maybe uneven would be a better word. Also, I am going to sound like a prude, and I don't care. This movie is very sexually charged. The line is blurred between pleasure and pain, I think, which I think is kind of the point, but it's just so overdone. It's just distracting. I think my favorite scene is when Renfield and Mina meet. Winona Ryder and Tom Waits are both excellent in that scene. And I think a line that Renfield has there is my favorite of the film. I'm no lunatic man. I'm a sane man fighting for his soul. So, overall, Coppola's version of Dracula is a memorable film, for better or for worse. In this version of the story, Dracula is depicted as both evil and sympathetic. And I've seen a lot of people complaining about that because Dracula of Bram Stoker's novel, on which this is supposedly based, he was just purely evil. There was at no time did you want to give him a hug, is what I've seen people say. Despite the flaws I mentioned, this film is artistically well done, so it's not too surprising that it won 3 Academy Awards: Best Costume Design, Best Sound Effects Editing, and Best Makeup. My Letterboxd score, again as with Fright Night, is 3 out of 5 stars. Thank you for joining me for my 2-film version of Watchlist Wednesday. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share if you would like. And I will see you next time. Take care.